All right, we are live right now on the Twitch and the Facebook, and you can go follow us on Twitter right now on at WTM Sean at Squid Sports Head. I almost tied my tongue there trying to say that. Of course, I am your host Sean Garber. Here with me, as always, Mr. Erik Watkins.
So apparently we did have a team of destiny, just not the one we anticipated.
And we technically did have two teams of destiny because the NWSL won, and then we had an interesting one for the MLS side of things. One that I think it's weird because for some it's maybe the villains of Major League Soccer. To others, it's actually a big boon for Major League Soccer. So we'll discuss that. But yeah, sorry, we were gonna do a show, and I had a car accident the same night that we were gonna do the show last week. I'm okay. My daughter's okay. The car is not okay, but we're still figuring that out of what's going to wind up happening with that. So I don't want to get into details, really spend too much time talking about it. We got a lot to talk about on the show. If you want some kind of sort of rundown, you can check out my previous episode of Video Games to the Max, not the Game Awards one, which that one's really good. You should go watch or listen to that. But the one we did with Randy talking about our honorable mention shows, whatever, I did spend a little bit of time at the beginning talking about that when it was a bit fresher. It's been a week now. I really kind of just want to get this over with, whatever's going to wind up happening, so that we can move on and figure out what's going to happen from here. So anyway, look, there is a lot to talk about on this show, as I've said about already. Of course, we do have new champions of Major League Soccer, and even though it's a little bit old, just a couple of days old by the time you're listening to this, it's still a pretty fresh thing as far as New York City FC, the boys from the Bronx, as John Champion so eloquently put it. The team that shares their name with Manchester City, and hey, to their credit, is on Manchester City's website, that NYCFC have the big win, and it's cool to see that you have a team that a lot was sort of against them when you're talking about playing in, they were dubbing it Soccer City USA in Portland, that entire fan base out there days before to get bracelets to be able to sit in certain sections. I mean, they were ready. They were ready for this to be the crowning achievement of the whole Cascadia region, when Seattle has been the darling of that entire thing for so long, and Portland had felt like they lived in their shadow, and it was not to be for Portland on this afternoon, basically, because they don't play this game at night for some reason. They play it in the afternoon.
Yeah, tough watching when I'm trying to look at MLS Cup Final and Army Navy. Don, we got to have another chat, Don. Seriously.
Erik, how dare you be watching the other football while you're trying to watch this
I try to appease both, foot in both worlds. You know how I operate.
Fair enough. Just we should we got to keep it real, folks. We do watch other things. We are passionate about other sports as well. So I can't take I wanted to take my little my thing off so y'all can see the whole picture behind me, but that is Sean Johnson, the captain of New York City FC, getting to raise that MLS Cup trophy, the first one ever for NYCFC in their history. Big deal for them. And, as a neutral, it was different to watch, right? Like, I'm so used to watching games I usually don't watch very many games as a neutral. I usually have some kind of vested interest out of all the different leagues. I have a team, and that's usually the way I follow that league. I'll watch highlights of other games as a neutral, but it's different to watch highlights, right? than watching an entire full game. And so it's interesting to watch something when you don't when you're just looking at these players and watching this game, and honestly, it was weird. It felt like Portland wasn't at home for the first, half and further of this game, Erik. I mean, NYCFC was taking it to them.
I have to admit, for everything that Portland tried, you especially look at, and I said this all throughout when we've done previous shows about playoffs, the theme has always been set pieces. When Castellanos scored the lone goal up for the longest time, perfect execution, little bit of a lucky bounce going in off of the post, even fans in the gym, in the stands, everywhere, it was deflated. And Portland, they kept trying, they kept pushing, but it was always just that little bit away for the longest time. It really wasn't until the dying seconds of regulation, NYCFC thinking, one hand on the trophy right there, all they have to do is clear a corner, and nope. Portland's like, all right, now we will go ahead and make things interesting.
Yeah, Steve Clark probably thought that he was going to be the scapegoat of the entire fan base. Technically, a little bit on his part for letting that Castellanos header go in. Great header by Castellanos, by the way. To get it down, go back. As always, you want to hit it back the way it came, the way the goalkeeper came. So perfect from his end. It goes right underneath Clark's, hands. He's able to get fingers to it, but he can't completely get it out. And it goes in. So NYCFC, like you said, is on the front foot as we go to halftime. And Portland comes back out. And, I want to say around the 65th minute, they start making some waves forward. They're able to get going. But both teams kind of played to don't want to make a mistake. Don't want to be the one that allows something to happen. And it really, to me, I thought it was really playing in NYCFC's favor for the most part. I mean, Max Morales, who you thought was going to have to come off with that injury that he had, he was able to stick through it and played really well. I thought the other Morales and James Sands had a terrific game as well in that, center midfield area. So, as far essentially, they were terrific. And I thought Gray going forward on the right side was really good for NYCFC as well. Honestly, Sean Johnson really didn't have a lot to do with Portland. Really didn't have any kind of opportunity. They had some, you could call it shots on goal, but none of those were anything that I'd have to be worried about. It was all, pot shots from like 15, 20 yards out. Mora had that one off a free kick where he got free and his foot just barely couldn't touch the ball. But like you said, it really wasn't until you got to the dying seconds. Literally, the whistle was going to blow if that ball went out of bounds. And NYCFC was going to be lifting that trophy right there in front of all the fans at the end of regulation. And nope, Felipe Mora off a deflection is able to get it in. And wow, talk about drama at the end. You're going to extra time now. What a finish. It's one of those like March Madness finishes. Like, wow.
Basically it's like the buzzer beater. It's like, snap, wait a minute.
Exactly. And, you're at home now. You're thinking, oh, my God, Portland's got all this momentum. But, to New York City's credit, they went through the same thing with Revolution. Remember Pajon Buchanan getting that last, not the same way, but with a few minutes left, but very similar vein. New England had tied that game up, and then they go to penalties. Same thing here with NYCFC, even though Portland was really knocking on the door there a little bit more in extra time, as NYCFC was a bit more ragged. Ronnie Dyla didn't make a sub until around the 80th minute. And I really thought he should have brought on Tadri Ashiri earlier, because he was really moving them, and he played well against New England as well. I thought, that we would have seen more from him. It's really weird. We didn't get to talk about it, but that the game against the Union fought their hearts out with, so many starters out, missing 11 players due to the COVID protocol. And, it's really sucks that they had to go through that. But,
especially the way that they got there after their thrilling win just to get to that match against NYCFC. And hearing that, it's like, it was going to be initially touch and go for that game even to go on, but they're like, all right, we have a team, nothing else scheduled.
To be fair, they really can't. That's hurting NYCFC to reschedule that game because of COVID protocols. Yes, I don't know how much of that is you could have avoided or not.
Right.
That was never really brought up as to whether it was necessarily the fault of the Union or not. It was just kind of one of those like, well, we're going to reschedule the game or not. They decide not to. And, man, you put them really at a big disadvantage there. So, either way, NYCFC still went out there and they won that game. They got to this game. They fought till the end. They Portland made them work for it there in that extra time, like I said. Had a few. I still don't think they had anything that was totally like other than the one Chara chance, I think.
Yeah, and I was going to say outside of Chara, but really, especially the second half of extra time, even though they weren't good chances, you wouldn't put a lot of XG on it. Portland was like, okay, the longer we're in this, the more we wear down that back line, the more we're going to try to get something. And they had a little extra composure, especially with Valeri coming on. The talisman last game of his career is like, all right, I'm going to work whatever magic I can, getting the ball forward and seeing what we can do. It just, again, that close, but never fully enough.
Yeah, and it was a very telling stat that the difference between how Portland plays when they are ahead to how Portland plays when they are behind. They do not like to chase the game. They have never won under Savarese while they chased the game, and that continued with this game as well. So to put that another in the loss column, they had only, lost 5 times when they were ahead at the half. So difference with those two teams. I hate, from one Venezuelan to another and telling what Savarese what to do, but I feel like if you're going to talk about your legendary player, weird that you wait till almost the end of the game to bring him on. You waited a long time for him. I thought Medina should have come on a little bit earlier as well. But it is what it is on that front. Penalties, both teams have an equal opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And I think NYCFC having that previous experience in these playoffs of going through that, I think really helped them here. Sean Johnson made the one save that counted against New England, and he makes the first 2 saves, very much like what we saw with Andre Blake against the Nashville. I think it really put Portland on their heels, including one by a save on Valeri himself. To Steve Clark's credit, he makes 1 save, but then after that, NYCFC get smart to it. They start just absolutely riveting them into the net. And Collins' last one, what a statement to just almost roof that thing to make sure NYCFC get the win. And they did it. They did it against all the odds. You're playing in Yankee Stadium where the Yankees don't want you. You got to play in Red Bull Arena where the Red Bulls don't want you. You have no home, basically. And you go out there and you win the damn whole thing and put pressure on that city. You do it for the Man City group. I forgot which one of the owners actually flew out there to go watch the game. So credit to them as well.
Because I remember they had the shot of him and they mentioned that he had flown in from St. Petersburg just to see this particular match, which honestly, if I'm part of NYCFC, I think, hey, even though we're part of the group, they're really respecting us now. So
they had come earlier in the week and they said they were committed to MLS and to NYCFC, and I mean, now you kind of just proved their point. You went out there and to their credit as well, they kept trying. They kept finding great international young talent, and none of that was more evident than the 6 different flags that between Rodriguez, Castellanos. I forgot who else is. There's like 2 Uruguayans on that team. Like just the different kinds of, where they come from and to come as a unit and play together and do so well. I mean, that's a great thing if you're MLS to have another new champion, the 14th different champion that the league has had now, and to be a team that you don't know what to do with them. Don Garber just had the State of MLS address that we'll talk about right after this. One of the questions he was asked was what about NYCFC? The city is making it difficult on them. The Yankees are making it difficult on them. Supposedly they were supposed to have a pitch, and that's because of, a problem with a parking garage that is owned by another company that owes debt to the city and to the Yankees. That caused a problem. And then I think as late as this year in July, supposedly this is also on NYCFC, they've given them no kind of proposal at all. And now the Yankees person says that it's kind of dead in the water at the moment. So we'll see. But perhaps this win, and now when they go through the festivities and everything, and seeing that Hammerstein Ballroom, a place that I've known for wrestling shows, the old ECW and WWE and everything else.
Packed for the watch party.
Yeah, exactly. Packed for the watch party. Ticker tape coming down. Pretty cool moment there as like the underdogs of the New York. Red Bull, yeah, they play over there in Harrison, New Jersey, but they're supposed to be the team.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's almost like the Giants and Jets situation, the Islanders and Rangers. It's NYCFC is that the Mets. They're the Mets of the situation. So that's great that they go out there and they get that win. Listen, there's a lot of people that don't like NYCFC because of who owns them and all. They play in that terrible Yankee Stadium, and the configuration is such a terrible thing for soccer, and I get that, and I don't like that either. But they got to deal with what they got to deal with, right?
Oh yeah,
and it is what it is for them. They got a terrible situation they have to deal with, but they went out there and they won. And that's what matters here. Erik, I mean, any thoughts on the team or
I mean,
the game? Or?
Honestly, for a game, I anticipated the entire time, like most MLS Cup finals, very taut. As you said, teams not playing to really make those mistakes. They capitalized, they rebounded well, and this gonna be so many comparisons with Orlando because we came in the same year. But honestly, you earned it, NYCFC. Celebrate it. Congratulations. You're a worthy champion.
Yeah, certainly. And of course, this State of MLS address was done, the week of the MLS Cup final. So it was not done after the game. It was done before this. Don had a lot to say about a lot of different topics. I'm going to go through the highlights here, and then Erik, once I get done with the highlights, if anything you really want to discuss, we can talk about it here. I'm going to try to go through these quickly. There was quite a lot in this here. So
I will save my anger. Go right ahead.
Yeah, bear with me here. So Austin FC sold out every game in its first season as an inaugural club. Very good look for Mr. Precourt after all the stuff he had to do to leave Columbus and get the team there. And the way the Q2 Stadium looks great. And we saw it for that, U.S. men's national team game. MLS Next PRO that has been announced now. So now there is a complete pathway from your reserve team, your young team, to your second division. They're calling it a third division, whatever, second division, all the way to MLS. There is now a direct pathway. If you don't play in MLS immediately, you can now play in a second division against other second division MLS clubs a reserve league, if you want to call it that. And, you can go from the youth team to there. That is going to start next season with 21 clubs, 20 MLS 2 teams, basically, with 8 more teams joining, I think, in 2023. There will be more independent teams. The first independent team is the former Rochester Rhinos. Now they are called, Rochester City. And it's one of the owners is Jamie Vardy of Leicester City. So
interesting.
He was on MLS Extra Time, talked about it and everything. So very interesting on their part. The MLS diversity hiring policy has been revamped now. So that is very good for MLS as far as making sure that, as you continue to be diverse in your league, you're getting more Black players. You're getting more, obviously the Latino players have always been there. That has always been a source of where you get the talent. Brazil, Argentina, Uruguay, all those places. That has been a place where you've gotten talent before. Mexico. But you are getting more, you've gotten the players from Africa before, but now you're getting more of American Black players. And you need to have that talent go into the coaching ranks as well. And this is what they're trying to do. Not make this, the honorary Rooney rule like the NFL has or used to have.
They still do.
Yeah, which is very, you can easily bypass that. But MLS has really made this a bigger thing. And of course, Robin Fraser, one of the best, coaches coming up in, he's the coach of Colorado. He was on the ESPN team for the MLS Cup. A fantastic year for him. But they're trying to make this a bigger deal now. So now you have to have your finalist pool that you have to tell the league about has to include 2 or more candidates from underrepresented groups, which includes everything you would consider a minority in the United States. Black, African American, Hispanic, Latino, Native American, Pacific Islander, Canadian, since, we have the 3 Canadian teams. Women and members of the LGBTQ community as well. You also have to make sure that you do an equal process for everyone, and you have to validate that. So I'm assuming you have to have video or some kind of recording process so that the league can go over that. So that is great as well, to make sure that you do have a diverse hiring policy, and there's big violations that go from $50,000 to $100,000 and beyond as well for several offenses. So it's good that we have this. It's not going to be foolproof. I'm sure there are waivers. So we'll see how well this works, but it's good to know that is a thing, Erik. I'm sure for you that's...
Oh, yeah, for something like this, and as I said, someone who's always underrepresented, you get the argument to where if you see someone who looks like you doing something that you want to do, it's going to push you more into doing it. And with all the culture around soccer in general here in the U.S., MLS is really taking that step forward and saying, yes, we are going to have this to where it's for everyone and everyone gets a chance. So I'm giving Don some credit for that one. Got to give him credit for that one.
Yeah, and I think now with the MLS Next Pro, where you're going to have chances of teams being further inside your inner cities, and you can go from one step to the next of seeing, your kid possibly, or your friend, or, somebody you grew up with. From the youth team to that next step, and you can actually watch them, as I'm going to talk about here with this MLS Rights TV package that is due to be decided in Q1 of 2022, is now going to include everything, Erik. There is no more parsing stuff out to this person and that person. It's going to include everything. So MLS Next Pro, digital streaming rights, national rights, and local rights will all be in one package. So this is much more like the NFL. This is not going to be like MLB, NHL, and basketball, where they had the problem with the Bally Sports, where Bally Sports is stuck on like 2 different providers, and you can't watch half the damn games because you don't have access to that. Not going to be a problem with, I have this problem with. Thankfully, ESPN got the rights to the hockey stuff because I have this problem with the Mavs. I can't watch them aside from when they're on national because Valley is terrible. But what I'm saying is,
Panthers fan in the middle of Lightning territory.
yeah,
You know my pain.
I'm sure that's a problem too. So, like, as you experience, we've all, I think, gone through this. If you watch any kind of other sport besides soccer, so this is much more like what we see in the European side now. Like those rights all go to this one provider or maybe two providers that they split the package, like we know what MLS has right now. But it's not going to be like, oh, well, you're going to have to deal with the former Fox Sports Net and how you're going to watch some of those games and all that, whatever. It's all going to be in one place. Hopefully it continues where you don't have to buy like the MLS Direct Kick or whatever again. So, and it keeps, like, I love the ESPN Plus thing. I love the fact that you can go on ESPN Plus and watch all those games if you want. So that is great. And that way too. So again, in one package, you'll be able to watch. If your MLS Next Pro team, which let's see what, not the one I need to be looking at here, the next one. So here are the teams that are in for this year, right? So Dallas is in on my end, Orlando is in on your end, Miami is also in. So don't think, it looks like DC is not in for this year, but Colorado, Dallas, Houston, Kansas City, Minnesota, Portland, Salt Lake, San Jose, Seattle, St. Louis, and Vancouver, and then Toronto, Rochester, which is the independent team that I talked about, Philadelphia, Orlando, New York City, New England, Miami, Columbus, Cincinnati, Chicago. Those are the teams. And in 2023, you'll have the others: the Atlanta, Austin, Charlotte, DC, LA, LAFC, Nashville, and the Red Bulls. And then there will be more independent teams to get to join as well. So they're not going to just end it there. They're going to keep adding teams. So that's good too. So that league may blow up even more than MLS itself, but that's a reserve league. So it's kind of okay.
Well, I mean, if you look at it, and especially those, like we talk about the Premier League, think about it as like Premier League 2. That's right. Sort of equivalent.
Well, the championship. Right.
Well, no, not even the championship. Specifically, Premier League 2, which is the Premier League's reserve teams. They don't necessarily play in the championship, or whatever. It's their own sort of like a ring-fenced organization, and MLS is doing the same thing. So I like that they're getting on board and that they're including independent teams as well. So say you don't have the markets like you would in the USL, even though you're creating like a third division structure. So competing with like USL League One along those lines, but you're still keeping it to where it's not entirely isolated, but you're still honing in your talent and everything else. So I like what they're doing on that end.
Yeah, so it's not completely isolated, like you said. There is a president of the league, Charles Alchek. Actually, Ali Curtis went from being, a big-time guy at Toronto FC to now being the senior vice president of competition and operations for MLS Next Pro. And then there will be 24 league games, and 8 teams are going to make the playoffs. So, and Adidas is also going to be their big sponsor. So, again, there's a lot happening here, and a lot will be happening. I don't know if any of these independent clubs are going to join before 2023, but you already know there's a plan, right? And the next year after that, there is going to be more teams added and everything else. So that is pretty cool that along with the MLS season, this next pro season will start. And then, when the new TV rights deal starts in, after this season that comes up, you will have that all in one package. Who knows who's going to have that when you get to whoever is going to have those rights, right? As Jonathan is letting us know, he is happy about NYCFC winning, like winning on Boas Island on the game show there for Erik. So, that's not all that Mr. Garber had to say here about the state of the MLS. He did have something to say about the Biennial World Cup as well, as we've talked about here. He says there is no practicality to it in his view. It dilutes what is the best sports event in the world, and it hurts the league, hurts the players, hurts our clubs. It's not worth it. In order to grow the populated sport around the world, he went on to say that he does not think that we should be basing the popularity of soccer in the U.S. on World Cup cycles. Like, that's not the only way to grow the game. He said that, you know, he noted that the reason why he really wants to stop at 30 for a while for the MLS is that MLS isn't the only league that exists, and he knows that there are 100 different soccer teams, pro teams, if you include the Next Pro and everything else, that are going to be around now. Think about that. Like, how do you possibly continue to expand, and then how is this whole structure going to keep working? And so he says, you know, this allows stability for the league for a while. And you know, we'll see how that holds. You know, he seemed very adamant about the fact that he wants to stop at 30 for a bit when mentioning other cities like Phoenix and San Diego, which are supposed to be in the running with Las Vegas, but Las Vegas is the clear front runner. And he basically said they're number 30. We're just waiting for stuff to get settled here, and we're going to announce it. But he said that years, like 5 or 10 years, when we don't know what's going to be going on, is it possible that there's more expansion to a 32 or beyond? Maybe. You know, there's a long time in life. You know, hopefully this league's going to keep going. I may not be around, but there's a very good chance that there will perhaps be more expansion. So I can't just say, oh, we're dead at 30 and that's it. But he seemed to make it seem like that as far as he's concerned, he's not going to be pushing beyond 30 for the time being anyway. So, I mean, that was another big thing, is that Las Vegas is pretty much, that's going to be the thing for the 30 teams. And, you know, Charlotte is going to join next season. They already have 20,000 season tickets sold already. They're going to play in the Panthers Bank of America Stadium. And it's going to be a situation like Seattle. Unfortunately, like Atlanta, there are no plans for another stadium. They're going to basically make this work at Bank of America Stadium, and let's see how it goes. It's not going to be like Nashville, who will move to the Western Conference and also begin playing their new stadium. We'll see what happens on the Charlotte end, if there ever is a stadium for Charlotte itself. The MLS All-Star Game is going to take place in Minnesota. There's no format, so there's no commitment about it being Liga MX again, which I really hope it is, because, man, that was a heck of a game. I really hope that it's Liga MX again, but we'll see. And there's no change on the Real Salt Lake ownership situation right now. There is multiple owners interested. So he says that they might have something figured out by that Q1 time again. But right now, he has nothing to report on that end. So quite a lot there in that entire MLS address thing. Anything that really stood out to you that you want to talk about that we haven't already?
All right. Vegas. I'm not going to hate on Vegas like I hate on Nashville. I'm getting that out of the way right now. But it's going to be very interesting to see how Vegas transforms from being an event sort of a city to a sports city.
Well, I mean, look, the Oakland A's want to move.
Yeah, right? The A's are looking to move to Vegas.
And he's also the owner of the San Jose Earthquakes, so he has a little bit of soccer background as well. And he did, you know, wish them well and everything, but he says that has nothing to do with whether they decide on Vegas. They're pretty much already decided on Vegas. So you already have the hockey team.
You do
that are doing well. You have the Raiders that, you know, they're doing what they're doing in the league right now, but their stadium is ridiculous, and
Oh, yeah.
Pretty awesome looking. You have the A's that are potentially moving, and then you have MLS. I mean, all that's left is for one of the basketball teams to decide that we're going to move it to Vegas, which, I mean, I think there's already been rumors about.
Oh, yeah. I've been talking in different places. Word on the street is Seattle and Vegas are your two likely expansion teams for the NBA. So we've already got it to where you're going to embrace these teams. The Knights were embraced. The A's could be embraced because Vegas has a good history of minor league baseball. The Raiders. NBA, not so much. You're still in Laker
but
territory.
NBA is such a big, it's such a glitz and glamour. You bring the right players to the Vegas team, you can necessarily have a team adopt there,
So I'm thinking maybe if Phoenix down the road, and I'll get to that next, you get that natural rivalry, I think it could work. I'm willing to give it more than a chance. But Don, do not sit here and lie to me. You know, like I know, you're sitting there looking at 2026, how everything happens after the United Cup, and you're going to be thinking, well, I know I said this back in 21, this many years, but it's the perfect time frame, yada, 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 yada. So anybody who goes to 30, they're immediately, for one reason or another, going to look at 32. I know you, Don. I know you're the same. But again, I'm giving you some credit. Everything, especially with this TV deal that you're going to be working on, I hope you get that right. You've got the right framework for it. And if you're already going to still have the Campeones Cup, if you're already expanding the Leagues Cup with Liga MX, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, I mean, he says, the Leagues Cup is their version of March Madness meets the World Cup. So
and so
he has big plans for that.
Yeah, so if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Keep the MLS All-Star Game with Liga MX. Further the rivalry, further the building. So
yeah.
Other than that,
I mean,
Don,
it's a guaranteed pack the stadium. The players care about it on both sides.
Absolutely.
Instead of having this. Oh, yeah, it's cool to have Real Madrid or AC Milan or Barcelona or whatever come, but it's a friendly at that. I mean, it's still a friendly, but they treat it as a big, huge friendly. Like, you have the teams basically switch out completely.
Yeah.
Barcelona might bring like a couple of stars and like the B team. And then at that point, it's like, it doesn't matter, right? It's a lot of people don't, I mean, it's going to be a talking point for a day or whatever, but it's not the same to have that. It's not the same to like where people, there's an intensity on the MLS side, right? Because there's an underdog look to it or whatever, but there's not an intensity on the European side that comes or whatnot. So
yeah, it's just part of their preseason tour. It's business as usual.
It's not. I really, really wish they would keep it to the Liga MX thing, because the way we saw that game unfold, you want to see that. You want to see that become a thing and continue to be a thing on that end. So that closes a chapter of the 2021 season for Major League Soccer. We will be obviously still talking about news as you get into the draft and you get into how they move teams. You get into how we're changing certain aspects. We've already talked about coaches being moved and changed. And there was another coaching decision made. Luchi Gonzalez actually is not totally out of a job, Erik. He is now basically replaced Nico Estevez on Greg Berhalter's team. Luchi Gonzalez is now part of the U.S. men's national team with Greg Berhalter. Of course, he has, a lot of experience coaching Jesus Ferreira and Ricardo Pepi and many of the other talent that is part of the FC Dallas system as youngsters. And then Nico Estevez, who also has the same coaching experience, is now the FC Dallas manager. He also has experience in Spain. He is a Spanish by birth. He coached the Valencia reserve side in July 2013 and also had a stint with Huracan Valencia in La Liga B from 2011 to 2013, where he took them to the playoffs twice. So he has a little bit of a different coaching experience from Luchi Gonzalez, but still that same FC Dallas youth system kind of thing. So, as expected, the Hunts don't change anything about what they do, still going for the cheap. And, all signs right now are still pointing to Ricardo Pepi. They're hoping he stays, but Ricardo Pepi has officially put in a transfer request this time. The latest team to want him now is Atletico de Madrid. I don't know about that because you got some decent talent you're going to learn from, Luis Suarez and Correa and everything, but is he ever going to get a game? I don't know.
So it sounds like it's going to be a lot of time with their B team, especially the way that they are up front.
I mean, technically they supposedly had a deal with Wolfsburg, but Wolfsburg never came to a deal with FC Dallas. They want somewhere between 13 to 15 million for him. Let's see if somebody pays that, because that's a steep price for somebody that's only been in MLS and through MLS's youth team. So we'll see if somebody wants to pay that when we get to January. Well, that's how things stand right now. Good to know that my team, FC Dallas, has a coach. I don't really know what to think of him because, again, it's in that same system. Are we really going to get better from what we were doing under Luchi Gonzalez? Let's see. Well, you can go from things getting better to obviously getting worse for another U.S. men's national team standout. Jesse Marsh, unfortunately, was let go as manager of RB Leipzig after 21 games. In 3 competitions that he was in, he went 8-4 draws and 9 losses in that span, winning 1 game out of his last 7, including getting bombed out of the Champions League. Of course, he was in a group of PSG and Manchester City, so that was always going to be a rough one, Erik. He also had weird meetings with the board about whether or not he was actually fit to be the coach or he was the right coach. That's a weird thing to be talking to the board about. That really makes you wonder if you should be the coach. And then that obviously makes the ownership group go, well, maybe we need to get this guy out of here faster than we initially planned. At least that's what I would think. And also, remember the players had dust-ups with him about his playing philosophy and actually forced him to play more of Julian Nagelsmann's style for a period as well, which is, man, you don't really see that a lot from your coach. You're supposed to be hard about the style that you play and getting to either making the players fit that style or figuring something else out that fits those players. It seems like he was doing neither, and the players weren't having it. So either way, now Mr. Tedesco is in charge over there for Leipzig, but really a weird time for Jesse Marsch.
I mean, it really is. And you kind of wonder what was on Leipzig's mind, because with all of the praise about, with the Red Bull system, with Leipzig, Salzburg, New York here, and Red Bull Bragantino, he was part of that Red Bull system. They had an experience within that. So you figure, okay, he knows how this works. We know how he works. We give him a shot. So coming in, having those meetings, number one, questionable to say the very least. Expectations, again, should have been tempered. We already spoke about what was in Champions League. Not quite the group of death, but for a team like Leipzig, if you finish third, that's about right. And then the results in the Bundesliga, yes, Bayern Munich on another tear. You still got Dortmund and others, but it's like there's a lot going on kind of behind the scenes, it sounds like, to where even if certain things had been achieved, there were too many questions that really shouldn't have existed. So you kind of wonder if this was how it's going on, you may be surprised he lasted 21 games. I am hearing this.
Yeah, it was always going to be a tough one for him. And, he was supposed to be the golden child, like you said. Came up through Red Bull New York. They did well there, got the Supporters Shield there. Won titles. He won championships at Salzburg, won cups at Salzburg.
Yeah.
And then, Julian Nagelsmann leaves. Okay, the next guy up, Jesse Marsch. And he's got Tyler Adams there as part of his core, an American player. Actually, Christopher Nkoku was playing really well under him. He was the one scoring all the goals. I mean, the dude had, I don't remember who it was against, but he had a fantastic Champions League game. Might have been against Bruges. But, seriously, they were kicking butt in certain games, and Nkoku was getting a hat trick in games. I mean, they were doing well at times, but other times they were just not playing well at all. And I think it was just that loss to Union Berlin just ultimately did him in. A very low table team. You're 11th in the table. I mean, you're only 5 points off the top at that point, but you knew you were going to lose in the Champions League. Credit to Mitzlaff for kind of understanding that, not expecting him to pull a miracle there. Right. But it was always going to be hard. It feels like they set him up to lose. They brought in Silva, which helps, but they let Schick go, and look what he's doing for Leverkusen. And they let Upamecano go. They let Konate go. I mean, that's rough. You're losing your center back pairing immediately. That is not something. I mean, that's the thing people don't. I mean, I know people that watch soccer get this, but if you're listening to this just as a, whatever, one of the key things, it's think about it at football side, the other football side, losing key parts of your offensive line or your defensive line for that matter, or just looking at it as losing your core rock center in basketball. I mean, even though we don't really have true centers that much in basketball anymore, that is your rock, your foundation, and you lose that, and you have to all of a sudden change how you play, who you put there. Schick is a guy that scores goals with Czech Republic and with Leverkusen to all of a sudden now. I mean, I know he was a lone player. You decided not to sign him for Leipzig, but that makes a big difference. So, that's a lot of change, and that they didn't help, I thought, Jesse Marsch at all there. But what's weird, Erik, is that he was a prize guy at Red Bull. So there was a lot of rumors that, Jesse Marsch is just going to go join Ralph Rangnick at Manchester United. But no, at least not right now. The assistant that he chose is another Red Bull product, Chris Armas, former Chicago Fire legend. And, he did not have a great stint with Toronto FC. Lasted there 6 months, then got sacked. Was part of the Red Bull system as an assistant coach. Doesn't have the greatest CV, and he's your guy that you're using to kind of push your system in a place that doesn't necessarily always care for Americans. What do you think about this?
I don't know. I mean, I don't want to say this is another situation that's set up for failure, but you've really got to wonder who's sort of making these decisions. And
obviously Mr. Rangnick is making this. This is his backroom staff, right? This is
this is his backroom staff, but it's okay, you're there as pretty much a stopgap. You're defined and trying to make your move because you're eventually moving up, as we discussed, into that consultancy role. So it's yes, they don't necessarily favor Americans. The Glazers have pretty much taken care of that ideology. So it's how much do you feel you're really going to be able to do, and how much of this is really carrying over? Yes, you have your great CV. Yes, you're trying to make your imprint in all these things, but it's you're kind of walking a very fine line here, especially given everything that's happened in the last couple of years. And it's very easy to trip up when things keep not going well.
Yeah, maybe Chris Armas is better as a number 2, but it may just be that whole mentality of Ralph Rangnick. You know, like Ralph Rangnick is not a guy people were just after. I don't know what he did. I mean, he's great at talking. I mean, every time he does an interview, I'm just like, wow, he is really good at getting his point across and talking about control, and he is great at spinning like how the team played and what they need to do and all that stuff. Like, he really has an idea in his head of, okay, this is the way the team's supposed to play, and when they don't, I know what they did, and I know what they did wrong, and this is what happened. And you know, he's very good about, you know, obviously he's not going to call players out or whatever, but like, again, he's very good at getting his point across. And I don't know what he did with the Man United board to do that, to get him this job. And he's talked already about how he wants to stay in the job if possible. And it may just be that like underdog story, that feeling of like, well, nobody wants us. Nobody wants you either, Chris. I want you on my team. We'll be the two guys nobody wants, and we're gonna prove them wrong, you know. So he's, of course, remember that Ron Radnick was the head of everything for Red Bull at one point. So he kind of had control of all 3 clubs: Red Bull New York, Red Bull Salzburg, and Red Bull Leipzig. So he knows Chris Armas from that time. You know, he knows he went to Toronto and all that stuff, but he still wants him on his team. It's weird. You know, you would think it's Manchester United. You would go find some assistant manager with a big, long CV, you know, that you can have there in case something happens. Somebody that, you know, you think the players would take seriously. So interesting choice. How much it matters in the end, I don't know, but yeah, just interesting choice. Well, good for Chris Armas, you know.
Oh yeah,
American getting some big time move. I mean, that'll be the move of his career probably. I mean, think about that. You go from the only thing you really know about is MLS to Manchester United already. Like that's
shaping
crazy.
up. It could be tremendous, or at the very least, something other clubs will look at. I'm rooting for the guy. I'm hoping he does well and can use this as a catapult.
Yeah, for sure. So before we move on, you know, we'll talk about the Manchester United situation at the end, as we always do, and our Manchester United moment. But we have a few more things to get to. Last thing about the U.S. men's national team here before we move on to talk about a little bit about NWSL. U.S. men's national team, we didn't get to talk about this. It was a much bigger deal. It would have been last week because right after we did the show, literally hours after we did the show the last time, the U.S. men's national team squad to face Bosnia Herzegovina. Yes, it's a friendly, so it doesn't really matter necessarily. And this shows you in the team that was picked by Greg Berhalter. Obviously, also, you know, it's the winter period. So many games happening in Europe. This is more of an MLS, US-based squad. So, you know, get ready for that. I would say get ready for that to be the case when we're looking at this squad here. So I'm going to, let me see if I can pull it up so you guys that are watching can see it as well. I should have had this ready to go already, but you know, when we're doing things live, sometimes that's what happens. But let me see how this looks when you pull it up here. And y'all can't see Jack there, I'm sure. So let me see if I can move this. No, I can't apparently. So anyway, that was my terrible way of being able to show you our what we're doing here. But anyway, if you can perhaps read that. If not, you're listening. That's not great audio. Either way, we'll just read it off to you if you're listening. That way you know what I'm talking about. So here's your squad for this friendly against Bosnia Herzegovina. Gabriel Salina, who was also part of the U.S. under-20 team that went to the Revolutions Cup over there in Mexico. He's here with John Pulskamp, who's from Sporting KC. Salina's for Chicago Fire, and Matt Turner, obviously. Probably Matt Turner is going to start, so don't even have to worry about seeing Salina and Pulskamp here, because obviously even though you're playing a friendly, you still want to win. Defenders, George Bello, who we've seen previously, Justin Shea plays for FC Dallas. Cool to see him. Jonathan Gomez, dual national. Let's see if he actually plays. Kobe Henry, who's part of the USL Championship winning Orange County SC. That's right. I said that. Henry Kessler, also from the Revolution. Brooks Lennon. It's been a long time since we heard of Brooks Lennon. Aaron Long finally coming back after that long injury. Kevin Paredes, you should know a little bit about him. Erik from DC. Brian Reynolds coming over from Roma. He's not getting any time with old Jose Mourinho, so at least bring him in to get him a look at here. Austin Trusty, who we really haven't seen with the team since 2019, plays for the Colorado Rapids. And Walker Zimmerman, of course. You got to have one standout guy that Mr. Berhalter trusts. So good to see that he is going to be around. Of course, speaking of people that Berhalter trusts, Kellen Acosta, one of those big guys as well. He's going to be around. Another Colorado Rapids guy called Bassett. Johnny Cardoso from Internacional in Brazil. Christian Roldan, another one of those guys that Greg Berhalter loves. Jackson Ewell, I thought we weren't going to see him anymore. He is back again. Taylor Booth from Bayern Munich 2. Caden Clark, Cade Cowell, 2 youngsters from Red Bulls and Earthquakes. Jesus Ferreira, Ricardo Pepi, of course. Josh Zardes, another beloved Berhalter guy. And Jordan Morris coming back to the team after the injury. So I'd imagine that we're going to see Jordan Morris for sure. So interesting team there. Mix of youngsters, obviously all really U.S.-based talent there. I mean, what do you think when we're talking about that? Oh, see, this is what happens. I had it locked on. I had it locked on the other screen, and I'm sorry if I was showing y'all nothing right there the entire time on video. But
yeah, I figured with my screen it would be easier to have it to a zoom, and I had to step away for a quick second. So
okay, you were showing. Right, that's cool.
Yeah.
So even though I think I did not have that shared in the end, so I'm not sure. But anyway.
Well, luckily I was able to push it and had it zoomed in a little bit, so a bit of better reading for our podcast viewers. So,
but all right. So, like, any thoughts on this young team here?
I mean, for something like this where it's a friendly, I like it, and especially for those like Justin Shea or Kobe Henry from, as you mentioned, Orange County SC. Guys that are coming in probably wouldn't get anywhere near this level of experience otherwise, but it's like, hey, maybe for down the road, maybe get exposure for some of these guys. They can make moves to some bigger clubs or some in the MLS. Little bit of that experience in the off time. And I mean, honestly, who knows? Maybe for thinking down the road, hey, if I need maybe a teeny bit of extra depth, I can maybe consider these guys, or for like a Gold Cup or something. So I like the idea. I really do. Nothing really glaring about the roster, and for something like this, that's a good thing.
I really do hope we get to see Jonathan Gomez.
Mm-hmm.
He may go to Spain because he's recently joined the Spanish team, which I can't remember the team right now. And not be a part of this game. But we don't know yet. I would expect that we're going to see Aaron Long, since it's been so long since we've seen him playing, and especially because he was supposed to be part of the setup, for the longest time. He plays at Real Sociedad B.
Okay.
In the second division of La Liga. So he recently joined them over there. So he may be going to Spain and joining the team instead of being part of this game. But we'll see. Hopefully we do get to see him. If not, I would expect that George Bello probably starts at left back with Brian Reynolds at right back. But we'll see what happens with Mr. Berhalter. I'd imagine Color Acosta is going to start. Wouldn't be surprised if it's both Acosta and Roldan. and maybe he takes a shot at Cardoso or something. But we'll see what happens there. Up front, I'd expect Ricardo Pepi to start. With Jordan Morris and perhaps Fred Ada, or I would hope he gets to take a little bit of a shot at one of the youngsters, Cal or Caden Clark or something. So we can at least see them and not just do the Morris, Pepi, Zardes contingent.
I mean, that's probably going to be the start, but I could see someone like Cal or Clark coming on maybe halftime, round there early in the second half to get those key minutes.
Yeah, I mean, I just hope he gives some of these youngsters a start or something to get them a little bit more time in the game. Obviously, you can make, I think it's like 6 changes, or I think it's even more, right, in the friendlies now. Sure.
I don't think they've changed it from 6 in international friendlies, but maybe that's something we can look up.
Yeah, most of the international friendlies they were canceled when the pandemic happened. So you're probably right about that. They haven't really changed much of how many you can put in. But yeah, either way, Saturday. So when we do the show again, if we don't do after show, when we do the show again on the next Sunday, we'll definitely be talking about this game. So you'll get our thoughts pretty quickly after the game there. Just pretty quick here before we get to the Manchester United moment. NWSL, Racing Louisville did hire a coach. I'm not going to say I'm super familiar with him, so we'll just leave it at that. It is a male coach. He's coached women's teams in Sweden, China, and Cyprus was his most recent location there. Excuse me. I think his last name is Kim, if I'm not mistaken. So that's cool. Good to see that more of these coaching vacancies are getting filled up. With everything that's been considered, weird that, we are still getting male coaches getting hired. I'm sure that those folks that hate that kind of thing have already voiced their concerns about that.
I'm just going to leave this to the vetting process.
Yeah, they did do an extensive background check on him, supposedly. So that's all we can say. We got to go by what the team decides at that point. But the more important thing for NWSL is more crazy movement going on. Alex Morgan is going to move from your Orlando Pride, Erik. Although she's really hasn't made that many appearances in the last couple of years for the team. Between playing for Tottenham in the offseason and then playing Orlando, she made 20 appearances last season, 15 for Orlando, 5 for Tottenham, 5 goals for Orlando, 2 for Tottenham. She's going to San Diego Wave. So the San Diego Wave, apparently her husband, plays down there, so better for her to be closer to him. But she's going to be a big promo star, certainly, at least on the marketing end for San Diego Wave. If she gets to play, that's even better for that team. So San Diego Wave looking good, at least on Star Power right now.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's a good move for Alex. Thank you for all your time here in Orlando. Definitely show off, show out, and with a lot of these women's national team players unprotected heading into the expansion draft, you're already seeing San Diego making moves. You're going to see Angel City making similar moves. So your SoCal teams are going to be built up, as you said, star power, star power, star power.
Yeah, so we saw Carly Lloyd retire and leave Gotham, NYNJ Gotham. Ali Krieger and Ashlyn Harris are also going to go over to Gotham now in exchange for draft picks. So 2 good gets for Gotham there. And Krieger and Ashlyn Harris, and a very solid, fantastic goalkeeper and a very good defender as well. So defender/midfielder. So, yeah, good move for Gotham. Let's see how much that helps on the playing end. And right now, we're just waiting. We've waited, and it's going to happen this week. So, again, by the time we get to the next show, we'll have had the expansion draft, which happens on Thursday, and then the draft, the actual NWSL 2023 draft, which are both happening remotely due to the what's happening again with the pandemic. Omicron has taken over, even though apparently it's less lethal. It's still infecting people at a rapid rate, and especially those that have been vaccinated. So get those boosters, folks. And we'll be able to talk about both what happened in both drafts. And even though there's a lot of protections, Erik, there's a lot of trades happen to have full protection or partial protection. So, it's good that these trades have been happening for San Diego and Angel City, because don't know if there's going to be a lot of names that are going to be leaving their teams to go join these teams, aside from those trades that have already happened. So,
and especially with any kind of protection rules, you expect one or two big ones and naturally have those kind of handshake deals somewhat in place. But
right.
It's good to see that they're still both approaching this in a good way. It's like, all right, we still get to build, and you're leaving us something that really we can choose from. So they're not going to be behind the 8 ball when the season starts.
Yeah, certainly. And then you're correct there. So this was more of a youth thing here. The MASL has returned. Take it away.
The Major Arena Soccer League is back. For those of you who loved and missed the indoor game, it has returned just about entirely full force. Last season only had 7 teams. Teams only played on average about a dozen games. You had wacky playoffs, everything being affected by the pandemic, of course. You still had your crowning champion. My Florida Tropics were upset because of the stupid seeding system. Don't ask me why. San Diego coming back, defending their title. But now you're going to get more of a normal season. They've listened to me and they've still expanded a bit. It's going to be 24 games among the 12 teams. It's going to be in line in 3 divisions. Some of your old hats that took last season off: Baltimore, Harrisburg, Utica City up in New York, Milwaukee, they're coming back. But Rochester, Monterrey, and the Mesquite Outlaws, they're going back on hiatus. So there's still room for some expansion again there. You still have a Mexican team in the contingent, even though Soles de Sonora, league runners-up in 16-17, made the playoffs again the following year. They've unfortunately folded. But a new team in Chihuahua, the Chihuahua Savage.
Oh, cool, Chihuahua.
Yep, they're in. So they're going to be in part of that West Division. So it's going to be 3 divisions this year: East, Central, and West. 18 playoffs. So your 3 division winners and your 5 wild cards. Still doing the best of 2 in all rounds, which I like. But for the first time ever, MASL is doing a little something different. They've finally gotten on board, and instead of going to a strict win-loss system, they're going by points. For those of you who are more familiar with the IIHF and ice hockey in the 3-2-1 system, it's going to be exactly that. 3 for a regulation win, 2 for an overtime or shootout win, which Baltimore beating Milwaukee the first overtime game of the season, and 1 for an overtime or shootout loss. So MASL is catching up.
Well, the NHL kind of does that too,
right? Not the 3-2-1. They just do 2-1. So even if you win in overtime, you still get your full 2 points. But only if you lose in overtime or shootout do you get 1. International ice hockey tournaments treat the 3 points for a regulation win. So you're starting to get more normalized, and I hope the teams that came back from hiatus will be back next season. You've got Shep Messing as part of your top brass.
Oh, wow, Shep Messing.
Yeah, they've made a lot of moves. MASL is getting very, very serious, and I am here for it. Welcome back. Blast, I still love you, but hashtag let's get tropical. Let's finish our business from last season.
All right. Well, there you go. Something I'm sure Erik will be keeping his eye on. You know,
They have the full game streamed and everything on YouTube, and they have their midweek and MASL primetime shows that go over the highlights and stuff. Give them a subscribe after you subscribe to our channels, of course, but give them a follow and trust me, it's worth it. Very great action.
well, there you go. For sure. Watch that MASL this year. More stuff to go check out in soccer land. So
and don't forget the Dallas Sidekicks. You've got a vested interest too, so
yes, I need to go check that out. Dallas Sidekicks, gotta go cheer them on. So before we end this thing, we gotta do our Manchester United moment here. And well, interesting week. The first week for Ralf Rangnick as the interim manager of Manchester United Football Club, and you have 2 wins in the league against Crystal Palace, which has been a team that's done pretty well, and Norwich, which is the bottom team in the league. And then you have a drawing week against Young Boys. It didn't matter. He actually played all subs pretty much and got to watch the entire team of youngsters be able to play against Young Boys, and they did okay. I mean, Young Boys, obviously, you got to watch Jordan Pefok play as well, which was nice. And unfortunately, didn't get to really. I mean, when you're playing amongst youngsters that haven't played with each other, you're going to get that kind of game where you're kind of putting out fires more than anything. But at least you got to see some of those youngsters play, and that's was the cool thing. So, but you do have the compare and contrast between the 2 games. So Crystal Palace, I felt like they were more on the front foot, Erik. Certainly surprised Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace wasn't at their best, though, I would agree. There, they had the one opportunity by Jordan Ayew. Aside from that, it was kind of all Manchester United, and really United should have done more than just score the 1 goal. It's that's one of those things that they really haven't figured out yet. It feels like the problem with this 4-2-2 system is that when they get the ball back, they're not in always the best positions. And so it kind of seems like it's not a connection straight to goal. It's not a counterattack straight to the other end. It's like, oh, well, I'm kind of here in the middle of the pitch. What do I do? And a lot of times you'll see them just lose the ball again, or they mess it up when they get into the box. And against Norwich, it was a different deal, though, Erik. Norwich really could have won several times. They had a lot of several chances in the second half that David De Gea had to make some ridiculous saves, including the last one. I mean, he was probably going to be offside, but De Gea had to literally keep it off the line. That was a bit disappointing, even though we did get to see Josh Chardon. I thought he had some decent moments, if you're talking about USMNT national team perspective. But I don't know if it's still like it's going to get used to the system, or what do you think?
I think that's part of it, because when you play this particular pressing style that Rangnick does, you have to know what to do and how to strike quickly, creating those better counter attacks, or doing more if you still got to slow down and create that possession to set up a great chance.
Right.
The getting the ball back, we've got that part in a lot of ways great, except for, as you had mentioned, with Norwich, they still know how to break that press, how to go through, how to create.
There's just a lot of space left behind with the fullbacks when they go forward, and you have guys that aren't, we're talking about attacking players. We're talking about Rashford, Ronaldo, Sancho, Fernandez that are really not used to just like tracking back.
No,
and
not
covering.
At all.
They're guys that are used to kind of stay up front and try to. So they're great, like you said, at getting that ball back. But when when you get past that first line of the press, there's a problem.
Yep.
And that's a big problem because this is Norwich. This is Pookie and, like I said, Sargent. And Pookie had one chance that when you freeze frame his face, I think I'm gonna like remember that look for like a while. He just has a face that looks like it should be on some movie where you just replace it with somebody else's head half the time. But honestly, they should have scored several times, and they just weren't good enough. But when you're playing I think you need to be worried about when you play Brentford on Wednesday. When you play Brighton on the weekend, be worried because they have better teams. They have teams that know how to play together. They have teams that, play a more cohesive way. You allow that, to happen where they get in behind, you probably are going to have some goals scored on you that is not going to be able to save. I mean, literally had to save them from conceding several times.
And with a team like Brentford in particular, all they need is just that little bit of space. They can be at times so surgical with those passes and getting in like its center, and they will outsmart De Gea at some point. As you said, he's going to be in one of those positions where he can't save it. And then if you give a team like Brentford in particular, Brighton as well, but Brentford confidence, they're like, okay, we can go out and turn this 1 point into 3. And United's still in that stage to where not fully being able to react just yet. So it's going to be a tricky couple of fixtures.
Yeah, certainly. And I think the problem is also, going forward, I thought Sancho's been great. I thought Sancho's been the one player that from the Solskjaer to Carrick to Rangnick has really improved. You're seeing it a lot. I think Dallo is another player, the right back, that is doing pretty well as well. Having to be in. Tellus is great at least on the free kicks. He almost had that one go in off the deflection in around the 15th minute or whatever. He's good, on the set pieces as well. Ronaldo's obviously Ronaldo. Rashford, I don't feel like, at least in the game against Norwich, other than the one cross that he gives Ronaldo in about the 80th minute that just doesn't hit his foot right. He had his head down half the game. He wasn't confident. I did not understand the change for Sancho for Greenwood. Why would you keep Rashford in the game at that point? Take him out, put Greenwood in. Greenwood is a forward as well. You like Greenwood. We know you like him. Put him in for the player that's not playing well. And see what happens.
Exactly. That would have had just as much cohesion along like that front line and anything else.
But I think there is one problem. And I don't know if it's going to be solved when Pogba comes back or not, but I think Bruno is an issue. I think you see a lot of people always say, Ronaldo's a problem. Ronaldo's a problem. He doesn't press. He presses to an extent. I just don't think Bruno works in that second part of the 4-2-2. Sancho is fine. He has the ability to kind of get back if he can, but he's still not a track back guy. But Bruno's just not that kind of player. And then lately, he has just been really bad about when he goes and tries to put in a ball. Most of the time, it's bad, and it just winds up in a turnover the other way. I don't know how he's going to fix that of being able to have Bruno and Ronaldo on at the same time. But either you're going to have to play Bruno up front or you're going to have to not play Bruno at all.
And I honestly lean towards not playing Bruno at all. Again, Pogba fills that void a lot better. Still wouldn't necessarily be perfect, but this is not the same Bruno that we've even seen like during the start of the season. You could say they're changing systems, changing confidence, what have you, but it's just terribly visible. And if he is going through this being mentally or what have you, give him some time to sort himself out. Or if he doesn't, you move off of him entirely. Find someone else who would be a better replacement. But you're walking on a lot of thin ice the longer you keep him in here right now.
Yeah, I mean, either Ragnar's got to change the system a little bit to make him more viable, whether you put him as a number 10 behind whoever you're going to start next to Ronaldo, or you're going to have to start playing Van de Beek there, or Pablo when he comes back, or even Greenwood there. Just that's not his game. It's not his game. It doesn't work with him. It puts him in a bad position when he's trying to put the ball in, and it doesn't help the team. There's no flow there, and a lot of times he gets caught out as well. It's not good. I think he is more of the problem than Ronaldo, because Ronaldo is still scoring goals for you.
Mm-hmm.
Number one. Number two, he still does press some, and he is that clear forward man for you. Whereas, if you're going to get Rashford or Sancho, they're the guys that are crossing the ball into him. You've kind of made the team around Ronaldo now, because it's all about crossing into the box now. And that's where he is at his best. That hasn't really necessarily worked out yet, because I think you're still having the problem where they're getting caught in no man's land when they're trying to go forward after they get the ball back. They're not being able to do that thing where Radnick wants, that it's like, oh, really quick, 10 seconds after you get the ball back, shoot. You had that one chance from Ronaldo against Norwich where he got it, and then he tried to put it on his left foot, and then he shot it, and it wound up being very weak. Other than that, you really didn't get much from them going forward much. The Maguire header or whatever, you didn't get too much there. So let's see what happens against Brentford and Brighton. But these are two teams I think they could really either use cement that this works, or they're going to have to go, Mr. Randy, go back to the drawing board here. Going to be two interesting games, one on Tuesday against Brentford, and then one on the weekend against Brighton. We'll see. I'm going to have fun. Going to be dreading it as a fan, but going to be a fun one.
The United Brentford one, I'm going to be torn so hard.
Yeah. Yeah, Brentford's kind of that like team you want to root for.
Well, not to mention I want to root for them. My wallet wants to root for them, but
That's true. All right. Well, that is going to do it here for us. Sorry we went a little bit long. There was a lot to talk about here on the show, since we didn't get to do the show last week as well. But hopefully you still enjoyed it. If you did, let us know. You can always hit us up at Squid Sports Head, at WTM Sean, and let us know there on the – just add us right there, and we'll let us know. You can always just go through and go hit rate and review on whatever podcast thing that you like to use. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Overcast, iHeartRadio, Google Pods, wherever it is that you want to listen to us on. Obviously you can watch us on YouTube or Twitch or on the Facebook page. And, check out that Last Word on Soccer. Check out WTN.com. And until then, for Eric, for myself, we'll see you later, everybody.
Peace.